Gear up, because this is the Fuel Your Marketing podcast, designed to accelerate sales and grow your business. Let's welcome your host, Arti Sharma.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Fuel Your Marketing. I'm your host, Arti, and today we have a very, very special guest, and I'm very thrilled to have him on the show, Feras Alhlou, all the way from Silicon Valley. Feras is a visionary entrepreneur. He has seen it all from being a startup to having an 8-figure exit to one of the top 5 global media companies. You definitely don't want to miss this show and this entire episode. And to add, he's a philanthropist. He's a black belt in one of the martial arts techniques, and now he's on to his next venture. I am so thrilled to have him on the show. Just can't wait to unpack everything around his journey and what he thinks of the future. So please join me in welcoming Feras to the show. Feras, welcome, and thank you for carving out the time.
Arti, thank you so much. We go way back, so I'm so happy to be here reconnecting, and thank you for the kind remarks early on.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm sure I've not done justice, but 16 plus years, I don't want to age either of us, but yeah, 16 plus years, I've seen some of your journey, but I'm really excited to see one of those, periods when we were all busy building our own businesses. So why don't we start with, your journey as an agency? You were an agency startup, and then can you share a little bit more about your story of how it all began and what inspired you really to become a very niche agency? I'm not going to give away the sauce here.
So we moved to the Bay Area back in 1998 from Florida, and I joined a startup. We raised a whole lot of money. It was a product startup at the time. The product was ahead of its time, ran out of money. I was laid off. And it was hard. And I know we still see people around us. The rounds of layoffs haven't really slowed down. So it's very hard. And we can talk about it if you like in a bit, but basically I couldn't find a job for 7 weeks. 7 weeks. I was sending resumes. I was leveraging my network, doing everything, by the book. But it was a very dry, very, very dry job market, and I couldn't get anything. And so I ran into a friend of mine who was thinking to start a business. And I said, okay, let's do it. I had a young family, got to bring food to the table, got to pay rent. So that's how I always say I was forced into entrepreneurship in a way.
You know what?
I was still,
accidental entrepreneurships are the best because there's adversity, and then there is that desire to do something. As you said, you had a purpose.
Yeah, and it was difficult. So initially, like for the first for a couple of months, I wasn't sure if this is going to be the thing because we couldn't sell. I knew nothing about sales. I knew nothing about marketing. So we had to learn all this stuff from the ground up. And then once we had that first sale, the sweetest moment in my business, well, there are a few others, but that was like, yes, it was a proof of concept. Like, yes, all that planning, all the thinking about the business plan, pricing, how to package our service, and then knocking on so many doors, getting so many rejections. Arti, I don't know if I told you the story before. The first day we decided to go out and sell, we were selling web design services, online marketing services, if you remember. The first day, we went to 5 restaurants. Mm-hmm. People, they knew us. We go there with our families. And, I was very shy, and I would sheepishly go to the business owner after we pay the bills and all that. I say, hey, do you want to have a website? And 5 rejections. It was devastating. It was really hard. And we were like doubting ourselves. Is this going to work? So it took us a couple of days to recover, and then went back at it again. A couple of months into it, we got our first client at a restaurant. It's called Athena Grill down here in Santa Clara, still around, thriving. And that was, oh my God, I can sell something. Right now, it took us 4 months to deliver a basic website, 2 months to deliver a 4-page website for $1,400. But that was the sweetest thing because I got a check, the down payment, we delivered the project, the client was happy. And from there, we struggled a lot to kind of go into bigger accounts. But that initial phase was really hard mentally to stick to it, to do your best, do things that are very uncomfortable to you. And once you see those initial results, for me, it was very rewarding, and it gave me a lot of motivation to keep going at it.
Yeah. So, as they say, fail fail often, fail fast, and then succeed better and succeed faster. So that's how the story is. It looks like that the restaurant had a really good marketing team behind that. That since then to now, they've been kind
Oh
of
yeah, yeah. I
they
mean,
started
they,
off
you know,
well.
we ranked them number one on Google. Like if you, I think it's a Greek restaurant, Santa Clara. I mean, it was really easy at the time, right? So, but no, they're doing very well. It's been what, 21 years. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, congratulations. So that's a really good story. I've got a very similar, but we'll reserve it for another time. I am also an accidental agency owner, but I had to go to a friend of mine who at the end of December, I think we literally just day before yesterday finished 16 years of our incorporation. So
Oh wow.
so then so yeah, so how did you kind of, I know that all began accidentally, you were inspired, there was some, purpose, family, but what inspired you to really focus on a niche that you kind of built around?
Yeah. So I was a sponge. I was reading, attending workshops. CDs were a thing at the time. Buying these CDs. Uh, and you learn a lot, right, from others, and then when you try to apply it, some of it works, some of it doesn't work. So this whole idea of specializing in something, I think I read the $1 Million Consultant book and a few other books, and it just made so much sense to us because if we were starting to do web design, web development, it was very competitive. Like within a couple of years, people were doing things offshore. It was really hard to sell and be competitive on what we started the company with, doing web design. And what was the next thing? Okay, like paid search was a thing, SEO was a thing, right? So we evolved our services, and then in a way, we would we would pick up a new service that was we would ride that wave, learn it, benefit from it, and then something that wasn't like bringing us good revenue or good, or it wasn't very profitable, we would just drop it and gradually get out of that service. And then we landed on analytics around 2008, 2009. That was very new to small and mid-sized businesses, and it was like almost like magic. You go to a business owner and you say, if you put an ad in the paper, you have no idea how the ad is performing. But here, if you spend $1,000 with me, I can show you that I drove 1,000 visitors to your website. So that measurable aspect of digital marketing was very appealing to business owners. And then we somehow kind of liked it as well. And I think there were only like a couple books on this stuff. So we picked up those books, we learned them, we applied the best practices, and we saw the return. And I think that mindset of always wanting to learn, as Peter Drucker said, the number one advantage you have as a business is to learn and implement ahead of your competition. So we sort of embodied that. Like we're always, even once we niche, like in analytics, like how do we become certified partners with Google? How do we be one of the top partners with Google? How do we write case studies on this? How do we work across different verticals? So kind of becoming an expert and becoming known for something, I to me it was very satisfying, very rewarding. I'm helping others, and it works. I think it works wonders in business when you recognize as an expert. It just brings a lot of business your way.
Yeah, and remember you also authored a book on analytics, and then that was your brand. Feras was known for analytics, and that's when we were part of a network where we kind of, when everybody was looking up to you, and every time you spoke at different stages, you were speaking globally as well. So I remember you were the analytics guy within that network, and also within your client base and your other networks. So that's so profound. Branding is key, and I think brand creates demand too, and thought leadership is the way to go these days, as we all know. But there is one more thing that, there were certain key moments, I'm sure, that helped you not just niche down, but also become that global leader before the acquisition. You had this 8-figure acquisition. So talk to me a little bit about that.
So we doubled down on the niche on analytics, and we had very humble beginnings with small businesses. And again, I read a lot about growth, and I remember this one quote from Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. He says, "Life is about growth. You grow or you die." And I took that to heart. And I think founders, not everyone maybe want to grow. Not everyone has the resources or the bandwidth or the lack of obligations and responsibilities. But if you're serious about growth, in my mind, you have to be learning and you have to be committed, like to doing things better. So as we got into analytics and as we became partners with Google, that exposure started to bring us larger clients. So we had a shift first from doing web design and online marketing and everything else, and we start to focus on analytics, digital analytics, and then we started to also move from working with small businesses to mid-sized businesses to large business, to Fortune 1000, later Fortune 500, later Fortune 50. So we had Google as a client, we had Salesforce as a client. So that, I think, doubling down and really mastering, and it's just not me, the team, learning the business side of it, the technical side of it, producing case studies, going to conferences, and just being immersed in this small or maybe medium-sized pond. Again, I don't know what the formula is, but if you do at least for me, if you do all these things, then you know a lot about it's like they say T-shaped consulting, I used to call it. So basically you know a little bit about a lot of things, but you really go deep on one or two things and you become known for that. And then you get invited to conferences, then your expertise, like this domain really well. And this is what I tell founders all the time. Like, it's okay to be a generalist, and you can be a generalist. But I think if you started after you explored several things, especially new founders, then pick one or two areas and become really, really strong in these areas. Like, know the ins and outs, or maybe pick a vertical, right? And know the pain points of the clients, know what's going on in the industries, regulations, trends, common, gotchas. You become a resource that people want to learn from, and they obviously later they want to hire. So being active, like once you learn and once you have that knowledge and you have the 10,000 hours, as Malcolm Gladwell said, once you reach mastery, then you're writing about it, you're speaking about it, you're sharing information, you're helping others with this information that you have, and that brings just a lot of positive energy your way, including leads.
Of course. And I think you rightly said today is the trend of the T-shaped marketer, and not just T-shaped marketer, but businesses who really want to narrow down their focus, either in industry focus, pivot there, or vertical in the productization. Excuse me. So what was the process like selling to dentsu? I'm sure that entire branding, thought leadership, expertise, being in the know in the analytics networks attracted dentsu to you. What was the process like? Any lessons you learned during the acquisition? Would you like to share with some founders who are building it to sell?
Yeah, no, I think every founder, and I wish someone told me this earlier, like you want to have a, like what's the end goal? So, and I'll tell you a story. So my business partner, when he left corporate and joined, um, his father-in-law, who I happen to know, he would come, and he's an older guy, pretty straight up guy. He would say, "So, hey, how is the business going?" I mean, he knew me in a lot of respect, mutual respect, but he's always check. Like, and what is the exit? What's the future plan? Like, what do And I was like, look at this logo. Like every time I met him, like, hey, we just got Sony as a client. Hey, we just got this as a client. But he's and he had a few exits on his own. He almost asked me like, what's the plan? What's the exit plan? So I think for those of us who are doing well, or if they're struggling, you want to obviously do better. If you're at 6 digits, you want to get to 7 digits, 7 figures. But what is the exit? Like it doesn't have to be, you want to be selling the business, but being ready, because you never know what happens. You might need, for example, my partner in 2016, a young person passed away. This came out of nowhere. He got sick, really sick. 21 days later, he left us. And if you don't have a solid business, and this, I mean, I don't talk about it on podcasts because I get emotional. He was a dear friend, his family is friends, but they're friends with our family. It was really a hard time for us. But because he had built a lot of processes, a lot of systems, and our team, and we were maybe 30 plus people at the time. People stepped in, and I was dealing with sort of sales and marketing. He was dealing with delivery and back office. So if we did not have systems in place and processes in place, it might have just been the end of the company at the time. I was mentally, psychologically, like it was really a hard thing for me. So for again, sad story, but you don't know what happens in business and life. So for founders, have a exit plan, but even if you're not planning on exiting, like setting up the business as if you want to sell it, because you want to have show you that you're profitable year over year, show that you are growing, showing that you have targets that you meet, showing that retention with your employees, your books are like the books are have to be in order. Work with accountants. Don't go cheap and do your own accounting. Like solid business practices will give you a lot of options in terms of when you're ready to do the next move or sell the business, or if things happen and outside of your control. So building a solid business with a solid foundation with systems and processes, I think that's where I see a lot of the founders kind of they make
Shortcut.
shortcuts, and I did all of that, at one point. But once you reach profitability and once you sort of figure out what's involved, don't go cheap on systems and processes and taking care of your people.
Yeah, I always told myself actually a very good point. Early on in my career and as an entrepreneur, one of my mentors gave me this book called Build to Sell. It's a
Yeah.
very thin book, but it's about a web design development agency, how they structured and put processes in. So we've always had that operational mindset to kind of make it sustainable, repeatable, and scalable, right? And every stage of the business wanted a different set of processes, because when you're in startup phase, then you're in scale up phase. How do you scale up? Some of your older processes need to be rejigged as well. So definitely that mindset has to be there. I agree with you, because and you know what? You never know what makes a company more attractive to
Yep.
to an acquisition partner, right? So you have to have strong positioning, recurring revenue, as you said, scalable team, good people, vision, purpose, of course, but also systems
I,
and processes.
absolutely. And I mean, I'm in Silicon Valley. I was in a product startup. We raised money, so I know the whole mergers and acquisitions scene pretty well. But the first time I went through it, I've gone through it a few times now, but it's like, oh my God, the buyer wants to know everything about the business. I mean, there's a whole due diligence process, and they're going to go and they won't leave any stone. They wanna dig deep into everything. So because they want to know what they're getting. Just like when you buy a house, like if you I always say, if you buy a shirt, quickly. If you want to buy a car, it takes a couple of weekends. If you want to buy a house, it takes a couple of months. If you want to sell a business, that's probably the largest transaction you do in your life, depending on the size of the business. So there's a whole lot of process that you have to go through. And if you're doing a lot of shortcuts, like every shortcut in the eyes of the potential buyer, it's a question mark. And there are a lot of question marks, like, okay, something just doesn't feel right. So I think solid books, solid P&L, definitely no shortcuts there. Don't get too creative, right? And then documentation, like contracts with customers, with vendors, partners, suppliers, your employees. I'll tell you a story. The buyer, the acquirer, they brought a whole lot of lawyers to the mix, of course. And I mean, we spent 6 digits on lawyers, and that's normal, part of the whole due diligence thing. And we went cheap on on the employee manual. There are always new regulations, right? Especially in California. So one time there was a change in PTO. There was some sort of new guideline, and we didn't bother to update our employee manual. I mean, we took amazing care of our people. We had all these googly benefits. People can babysit, and we covered like gym membership and dinners for two. I mean, we really took care of our people. It was one happy family. Uh, so I never bother about PTO. Like, people want to take time off, like it was very, very open environment. But the the buyer held a significant amount, close to 7 figures. They held it for 3 years because of a potential lawsuit by an employee, because our employee manual was not in compliance with the state regulation.
And that
I'm
was
not
potential.
exaggerating.
And in the future, they were estimating if there was a potential lawsuit, then
Because
that.
there's a statute of limitation on, so right, so from the day of the acquisition for 3 years, they held an amount in case someone sued us, or because now they'll sue them, right? They had money to cover. So I ended up negotiating that down, but it was still a six-figure amount that they held. I mean, we got it all back because there was no issue. But because we went cheap on not getting an HR specialist or an attorney to do a quick review of our employee manual, and I went on Google. Now people go on Chat GPT and they search and they copy and paste blindly, and then you get yourself in trouble. Now, if money is tight, I get it. If you're just starting or money is really tight, you have to cut corners at the time. But in terms of accounting, in terms of the legal, do not go cheap on it, especially when you are profitable. When you're not profitable, I get it. You do
Yeah,
things to survive, but beyond
100%.
the survival mode.
Yeah. And I think, these days there's a lot of fractional resources available. You don't have to hire full time. So when we were starting out and we had to put our employee handbook, I had a friend who was in HR. I asked her, she was consulting at the time, and I would always consult with her once in a while on certain HR factors, but she would bill me hourly, right? And then we brought them on as a retainer. And then, eventually we have now an HR specialist. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest lesson is to build your company as if you're going to sell it and treat it like an entity, which is a bigger brand. I always said to my team, I said the 3 P's and that I always say the corporate teaches you, right? 4 P's actually. One is the PowerPoint. Second is presentation, perseverance, and then there's politics, right? So I said, don't bring the politics in, but bring the rest of those 3 P's. And then I think perseverance is important, but at the same time, I would add another P today, which is profitability.
Yeah.
So what big lesson. Thank you for sharing that. And anybody who's like looking to exit, they got to make sure that accounting, HR, operationally they're set and they have a good team. So talk to me. Can we give away the name of the company who acquired you?
Yeah, it's public.
Public
It
knowledge,
was
right? It's public
press
knowledge.
releases. Yeah, it's actually dentsu. So it's the
Yeah.
fourth global media giant, 64,000 employees and all that. So really, it was, and then we ended up. This is another thing. With dentsu has a lot of sub brands. Merkle is one, and then Cardinal Path, which specialized in analytics. So we ended up actually merging with
Oh, wow.
Cardinal Path. So our competitor. So another lesson here is that be nice, be professional to everyone around you, because you never know what happens in life. So the people that, so the good thing is, and I was talking to someone yesterday about this, in terms of business ethic, in terms of your reputation and relationships. I went to dinner, just like you're not reconnecting. Went to dinner with someone yesterday who was visiting from Sacramento, Josh, and we were remembering the old days. And it's these relationships, these friendships. I mean, we spend most of our waking time at work. We like it or not. So the way we conduct ourselves, the way we interact with customers, partners, employees, it's not what we say, it's how we do things, how we go about things. And those relationships, first, I think just at the personal level, I think it's, it's satisfying to have friends and people who care. But also in business, you never know who will be your boss. You never know what happens. So our direct competitor, became, not only they had two CEOs. This is funny. They had co-CEOs. So I had two bosses. I went from no boss to having two bosses. Corey and Alex. They're friends. They were friends before I joined. When we were competing, we were still friends. Then they stayed friends when I reported to them, and then we're still friends afterward. And they never really treated me as they treated me as also a sort of
Colleague,
as a
full
peer, not
status.
like, yeah. So we never poached their employees. We never like went after their. I mean, we would compete. I'm very competitive. We'd go if a customer comes our way, we do everything we can to win that business. But also, life is too short to play games and try to do things that's just not right, not professional. It's not worth it.
I agree. You got to do the right thing. Okay. I always say, and I always think that, your judge of character is not what you think of yourselves, but when you're not in the room, what people say about you.
Yeah.
So I think you've done well. And Ferris, that's why we are still, talking here because I mean, you met a couple of my team members. We hold you in such high regard.
Oh, thank you.
And you always do such, you've always been very giving. And so, so life after acquisition, let's talk a little bit about that. When you've been on a high, you've been doing all the work, you've been soaking in like a sponge, reading. So did you add more, books to your bookshelf and library, or what was life after that? How did you decide what's your next move going to be?
Yeah. So obviously, COVID hit. So so the acquisition was in 2019, and then I stayed with the acquirer through 2021,
Mhm.
and then like 6 months or so prior, I told him, I want to unplug and bow out of corporate. So I took a couple of years off, and I did something I had been wanting to do for the longest time, is to work with nonprofits. So fortunately, I was able to do that and help a
Mhm.
number of nonprofits. One actually advocacy based in DC. One involved with the Red Cross here locally. I serve on their board. So it was really great time where I was just helping a number of causes, and then said, okay, what do I do next? And started the company, Start Up With Feras.
Mhm.
Really, I wanted to tell the stories, good, bad, and ugly of the last 20 years or so. And
Mm.
I spoke with a few friends, said, yeah, why don't you just write a book? Well, we had written a book. I said, I've already done that. So then I said, okay, well, we'll do content. So we started a YouTube channel, and then we built a website. So now that's what we do, is produce content for entrepreneurs, especially early stage entrepreneurs, those who want to start a business. They have the idea, they're working in a company, they're sick and tired of it, and they want to take that leap, and they're not sure how. So we provide a lot of like how-tos on to do that. All those who started and they're struggling, mainly in the services and consulting space. That's our content is focused on.
And you have such a great content. You put out content so frequently. That is a dedication and a resilient mind, I would say. Because as marketers, we sometimes, don't look at our own brand and look at our own marketing, and we're too good to service the customer. Many agencies that I speak with, they all say, "Yeah, man, we got to go on LinkedIn. We got to post on LinkedIn. We got to post and create this YouTube."
Hard.
Hard. Content creation is a big commitment. And so you sold the company, which was a startup. You exited. You brought back your startup mindset back to startup with Ferris. And so what was the biggest change in your approach this time around, the second time or the third time around? Because I know that you've done other businesses as well. So what's the biggest change in your approach to business as in general after selling a company and starting afresh?
Yeah. And we had, throughout that journey, we had built a business overseas and sold it. So there were a few other things going on in the background.
Mhm.
I mean, I think one of the things that founders who want to get into something else, maybe now they've got someone else running their business and they want to do something else, you have to be mindful and careful of your ability to do the same thing again, because you forget how hard it is. So on one side, a lot about business, like accounting, legal, like all that stuff. You got to do it right. You have resources. You know exactly what needs to be done. But the actual product or service, or maybe the new market you're entering, so the actual product or service you're producing, or the new market you're getting into, or maybe the new sector, maybe you worked in healthcare, now you're going into finance. So there's a lot to learn. So just because you did really well in one area, or maybe delivering a certain service, when you do a 180, you still have to remember that entrepreneurship is 5 times harder. So just don't. I think that's the number. And I'm writing something about it. Actually, I'll publish maybe before the end of the year. You gotta. It's humbling, because you've done it. You've moved mountains. It. You've built a business, a very successful business, Artie. Doing it again, and there's some stats. I think like the third time around, like you do well. The second time around is a bit more challenging because you think you can just do whatever, especially if you have the resources, because then you can hire people and consultants and all that. But still, you have to, like in my case, the whole content. I mean, we had a blog, we had an industry leading blog, so I knew about content creation, and we would post like once a week, and it would get shared on the Google blog and all that good stuff, and it brought us business. So I know content marketing, but that's different than doing 2 shorts every day, a video a week, post on social media, original content, an article on your website. So being a content, I mean, part of, we sell consulting, but also we have a media company in a way. That is a whole
And I remember you posted that you had to hire somebody who's also another good friend of yours to come in and help you kind of become that content director and producer alongside.
my Eric, my co-founder. Yeah. I mean, there's 6 of us now. So we're building something big. There's the consulting piece and helping entrepreneurs, and there's also a lot of free content, including the YouTube channel. And figuring out YouTube is not that, especially in a competitive niche, education, business, entrepreneurship. So the advice to those who want to either start, like after their first mountain, or maybe they want to venture into something else, because I know a lot of like founders who start to be profitable, they're making good money, they're doing well, they bring in maybe like a COO and they want to go and venture into something else. Just be ready for the ride, plan for it, or I don't know, put your money in Bitcoin. I don't know, whatever. No, don't listen to me.
Well, Bitcoin, yeah, sometimes, it does.
Depends.
How
Yeah.
much you have, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think you rightly said, sometimes we think that, and this is my third business, by the way. I had a travel agency in the past, and then I had another gig, HR recruitment firm back in India.
That I didn't know. I did
Yeah,
not know about that.
yeah, I had a recruitment firm. I actually started with one of my very good friends, and I sold it before I moved to Canada. So that's why I'm able to hire well, because I've got that knack, and I love interviewing people. Because back in the day, I used to say, and I told my son one day, I said, you know what, I've never failed an interview. So so I know I can call the bullshit when sometimes it's happening, and we all do that, at some point. So looks like that the playbook didn't work as much as you would have hoped. And your suggestion is, don't be too confident that once you've sold the business, that same playbook would apply to another industry, another resource, because every business is different, every entity is different.
Yeah.
It's different. So that's good advice for founders who've exited and wanting to start their second or third gig. But I want to go back to, Startup with Feras. It seems like that you have a mission. You've really been helping founders, 150 plus founders I've already seen on somewhere online. Can you tell us more about what is the big purpose, mission, or impact that you're aiming to make with Startup with Feras?
I love helping others, and volunteering. I don't know, the volunteering bug got into me from a very young age. So when I was in college, I was volunteering. Then I got into like giving blood, and then just helping in different causes. And I think, and a lot of people helped me along the way. So I feel it's in a way like, this is my way of saying thank you and helping others. So on our website, we have this form called Ask Feras, and it's free. We have 2-3 slots every week, 20 minutes. No gimmicks, no obligations. I'm not trying to sell anything. Just sign up, come to me with your questions. I'll share what I know. So there's that sense of helping others. And I've gone through this a few times now. I think I have something to offer, and I see people struggle. And I always say, like, don't make everything I'm saying is based on mistakes I made or mistakes I heard others have made. So you can do your own, you can make your own mistakes. Just don't make the ones I'm sharing with you, like not working with accountants early enough, like not the legal stuff we talked about. So I think seeing other people succeed, and seeing, especially like I speak with some young graduates, and they're just, I feel like a lot of them, and we have 50% of our people, 3 of the 6, they're Gen Zers, right? I love them. They're amazing. A lot of people, though, in that generation, they're just not ready to be hired, not by older folks like Gen Xers or whatever. Even like millennials are complaining about Gen Zers now. So helping others is something that's just been with me for a long time. And again, a lot of people help me, and it's my way of saying thank you. And I think we all have experiences. We've struggled, we've learned a lot, and sharing this and helping people getting to their like destination or their journey faster with less resources, with less gray hair, is something that's very, very rewarding to me. And of course, the capitalist in me, I want to
Mhm.
make I want to make it big. So there is that competitive thing in me, and we're all living longer. And what do? You're just gonna go. Okay, you sold the company. You're gonna go live in Hawaii, like the whole like it's just okay. You do
Yeah.
it for a few weeks, and then after that, I think we want to be productive. We want to be active, members of our communities. At least that's my view on it.
I can attest to this because I know 2 years ago when I reached out to you and I was looking for some advice. You gave me the right advice. You gave me the advice. You looked at my complete plan for the next 3, 4 years. And when I asked you, what can I do? And you said to me, when you are in a position to give back, just go ahead and give back to somebody else and give that free advice of your experience. So I still remember that candidly. And I think that was very profound. I can attest you are one of those people who enjoy and you have gained so much by giving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those of you who don't know, watch out Ferris's journey. He's donated to Red Cross. Blood donation, I remember, as being part of your. Is
Oh
it weekly,
yeah.
monthly? Has it still continuing or?
That,
Um,
yeah, I post on LinkedIn. Yeah, every 2 months on the clock. I
wow,
just completed my 111th one. Yeah, so.
wow, wow! What a
But I
great.
mean, not everybody's eligible. But if you're
Yeah,
eligible,
no,
there's
of course.
always people don't know. There's always shortage. There's a shortage
Yes.
all the time. So if you're eligible, it takes 45 minutes in and out, done. I don't know about Canada, but that's in the US.
Course. No, no, that is how it is if you're eligible, of course. So we talked about, what's your journey, where you think startups should definitely invest is learning, education, building relationships, obviously, making sure that you're building to as if you're going to sell at one point. So build like that, sustainably grow. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the future trends and insights that you're seeing because you've been such an entity in my mind. You've always been leading edge. You've been the leader. You're not the follower. And you said that, you mentioned that be a leader in your space. So where, and analytics has always been part of your journey. So what are some key trends in data and analytics that you're seeing that people should be paying attention in 2025 and beyond, especially now with AI in the mix?
Yeah, I mean, I was on a call yesterday, a company sort of introductory call, discovery call, and they the first question they asked me, the very first question they said, and they're like a $20 million business. Like we're doing paid search, we're doing email marketing, we're doing in-person events. Like, how do you know which effort is bringing results, both from a direct response and also from a branding perspective? I laughed. I said, "You asked me the toughest question in marketing." I said, their attribution is hard. You
It's
can't.
very hard these days, especially now with all the changes.
Exactly, exactly. When the stuff coming up, like the snippets, with the Google snippets, or people going to, Chat GPT search, like so. What my response, and it was more of a conversation. I said, what will not change is the way you look at data, the way you look at analytics, at insights. It needs to be a process in your business, just like hiring is a process, just like delivery is a process. That culture of the importance of analytics, it has to be from the top down. So I said, if you look at your revenue and you say, I had $20 million, I had $1 million last month. Okay, like the CEO, I'm pretty sure they have 2, 3 questions to dig a little bit, like, where does this revenue come from? Is it from existing customers, from new customers? Is it, repeat customers, new business? Is it from by which, segmented by which service line? So I said, you have to build systems that said every initiative you're planning, every marketing initiative, every touch point with the customer, like, how do we find ways to measure that? You will not get all the data. Data will always be messy. Data will always be incomplete. But that muscle, building that muscle of I'm planning for an initiative, for a campaign, like, how do I measure it in its own channel, and then how do I sort of trend it, right? like you start to building those muscles, and then insights will start popping up, and then you start to making changes based on sort of the ups and downs. So that, we used to say, I forgot who first said it, but like 80% people, 20% software, like 70-30, 90-10, it doesn't matter. But a lot of people invest in, I think, in technology. Same thing with AI, actually. But you're not putting the people or bringing in experts like yourself, Arti, and your team to help to really take advantage of the technology and do things properly. And so it's really like very at the foundational level. It's building processes just like every other part of the business to collect data, segment it, trend it, and then start to monitor. And you have to put people behind it, either someone
And I
maybe
think it is a
part-time.
mindset also. You rightly said it's a culture, right? And it starts at the top. If you don't have the culture to measure, you probably, and sometimes you might think that you're measuring the wrong metrics, but at least start somewhere and then you can keep
Exactly.
refine them. And I think even with startup founders, KPIs are important. Your KPIs could be as simple. Of course, you don't have to just measure the vanity metrics. You have to measure some of the metrics that drive business growth and help you make decisions.
Absolutely.
No pun intended, Measure Marketing, as the name of my agency is around that same time, 2008, when people were doing marketing, but nobody was measuring it. At the time we incorporated. So this is fantastic, Feras. Thank you so much for this insightful conversation. I'm sure our listeners have taken a whole lot away from this. You are helping startups thrive, inspiring so many. Keep doing that, because I consume your content. And before we wrap up, where can our listeners learn more about Startup with Feras and connect with you?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, Arti. And you can go to Startup with Feras, Feras spelled Feras, like my first name, .com for our website. We have a newsletter you can subscribe to, or you can go on YouTube at Startup with Feras. So we have shorts, we have live streams, and we have also our weekly videos.
Great. And we're going to be putting up links to all of these in the show notes. So thank you again for being on the show. And those of you who are listening, please do subscribe to the Fuel Your Marketing podcast for more stories, more strategies to fuel your growth. And we look forward to having you on another show another time. Until then, keep pushing boundaries and fueling your marketing. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Fuel Your Marketing podcast. For more episodes, visit www.fuelyourmarketing.ca.